Hello, everyone. We'll give people a few minutes to join.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Dale.
Let me get the right window to share so that we don't have to do any post-production editing.
Hmm.
So that looks right.
Yeah.
All right.
Joel, I've been out last 3 weeks. Have you needed post-production on the meeting in the last
No,
3?
no, but we did, I think in the
Yeah.
2 years we've been doing this, we've needed it twice,
Yeah.
as I recall.
Yep,
So,
yep.
twice, exactly twice. And neither of those were egregious, but, just
Yeah.
for safety.
Okay.
So no, I haven't needed it while you're out. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'll take some time and go back and publish those videos over the last couple weeks while I've been out.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Okay. Do you guys have any agenda items? We've got uh, Sridhar will give us an update. OPI Lifecycle Provisioning Working Group Chair was discussion was requested. Any other agenda items? And then for announcements, we can talk about the schedule.
Yeah, I'll talk about I've got two, Joe. One is the OCP conference in EMEA. And the second is a meeting I had with Robert Hormuth from AMD and what happened there. So
I know Robert very, very well.
oh good.
Yeah, because he was at Dell.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Anything else? Start doing the. All right. So we know we don't have. Okay, we know we don't have Simon. No. And this will be likely a no for Dongwei. Um, so Murchia and Satananda. All right, we'll give them 2 more minutes and then we'll get started and get this done. I think for the January 9th meeting, um, that's where we're going to need to do the planning um, for. I mean, again, we've had several attempts at planning this year and in 2024. I think what we need to do is figure out what we can actually do in 2025 and 2026. But let's get the updates and the discussions that are on the agenda done. And when we come back on January 9th, we're going to need to do, take a hard look at our subcommittee structures and whether we do some combining or rescoping or restating the mission statement, and decide what our output really is. I think that's going to be that's going to be the big thing to do that first, couple of weeks of January. And so I still think, OPI can be something useful, but we have to have a better discussion on what that useful thing is and, how it ties into the bigger world. Again, we've seen some use cases, the last month, with the
John, UCSD, is that what you're talking about?
ESD guy, and then also ION tie-ins, where use of DPUs is what we said it was, and common APIs and common tooling, common components are very valuable. And I think our big job is to figure out how to make that something people start using and caring about. In other words, take those use cases, can we make them more general and make people care about them? In addition, I think we're going to have to take another look at OPI plus IPDK and how that fits together. Because, IPDK is formally part of the overall Linux Foundation effort. So I think we need to take another look at IPDK. Any case, Sridhar, can you give us your updates? And we have Murchia and Santananda join while I was talking, so that is excellent. So now we have full quorum that we expect. So Sridhar, you're up.
Yeah. So I suppose regarding the governing board meeting that we had this week, earlier this week. So the budget is approved. So that was the main topic that we wanted to discuss and approve that part. So now we can work accordingly, and also the priorities. The priorities was discussed again, and it was kind of approved on. Maybe I can just quickly share my screen.
Yeah, why don't I stop sharing and you share and show us what that was?
Oops.
We're getting random. We're getting random screens. There we go. That looks correct. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So these are the priorities that I think we discussed this part in the TSC in the middle part. The TSC we discussed 2 weeks or 3 weeks back, and it was more or less they agreed with all the points that TSC had mentioned in the priorities, especially the ease of consumption. Right? It was like unanimous across all the governing board members, and said that hey, we have to work across improving the ease of consumption. Whatever it might be, if you want to add more points under this thing, we can do it. I think Paul, when we explain his discussion with the AMD, and when we continue the discussion more, we may end up adding or tweaking some of the points here. These 4 points in improving the ease of consumption for 2025. But that's kind of a big goal.
Yeah. So we have so we may have to edit this section out, Paul, because the tag at the bottom either needs to be removed, Sridhar, or we can't be showing this since this is a recorded, posted conversation.
Okay.
Or we simply don't post the video for today.
Yeah, we will do that. We will skip the video today.
Okay. So Paul, for today, put a note that we're not going to post a video due to discussing OPI governing board output and the tag at the bottom. I mean, we could just we could just edit, but let's just not post it for today.
Sure. Let's just not post it today. It's okay. We can skip one of these days. Okay. Yeah, and this on strengthening the use cases, right? The three is just a number. We can at least three use cases that we want to and associate end users to each of those use cases, right? And then work towards those use cases. So as you rightly mentioned, starting from January 9th meeting, how do we work, and maybe TSC can continue the discussion that they agreed upon. The main goal for 2025 is to improve the ease of consumption, and accordingly we can plan certain activities. And the lab, there are say it's going well, and we can continue with what we are doing with the lab, and maybe we can do a better marketing around the lab activities kind of thing, and increase the hardware delivery diversity. We had Mango Boost. We want to encourage them to bring their hardware also to the lab and see if we can increase the more hardware vendors. But the call to both the vendors and also the software vendors to help OPI in improving the ease of consumption. So this everybody agrees with it, and we are in sync with both the TSC and the governing board with respect to the priorities for 2025.
Yep. No, I mean, I think these are fine goals, and again, how to execute this is what I was talking about at the start of the call. So let's anyway, let it cook in your brain over the holiday, right? I mean, I don't think anybody will do any hard active work, but just let it sit in your brain, and let's start listing out what we can actually do and what we don't want to do, because we won't be able to accomplish it. Let's be realistic. And then if it's too little, that's one conversation. But I don't think it'll be too little. I think we could actually accomplish things along the lines that are listed here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Next, Oren, you're up. OPI Lifecycle and Provisioning Working Group Chair.
Yeah, hi. So I was approached by Gal Zeinman, who is currently chairing the Provision Lifecycle Working Group, and he expressed the need to be relieved from his task. He's being reassigned to other tasks in the company. He mentions the things they've been doing for the last year with him, Redfish, Ansible, I don't know all that. And of course, either him or someone else we're going to assign as a participant, but he's at least expressing the need to drop this this task of his.
Okay. Any thoughts or comments from anyone? Questions? All right. So could you let Oren, would you ask Gal if we could target February to have a replacement in place? If he could maintain that position in January of next year, and that we'll have a we'll target a replacement for February.
Yeah, I'll of course. I actually asked him up front if I was anticipating such question. Well, he kind of said that last time it happened there were just few meetings without the chair or something like that. So I don't know. Anyway, I'll ask him about that. There is no. Yeah.
We interim chair. I mean, again, before he took over, we sort of did ad hoc interim chair for that meeting. But could we get him? Would you mind asking him to come in and give us a full update on January 9th?
Yeah,
And
sure.
then also at that, so we need to go look for people in OPI. So all of the TSC board members go look for someone who would be able to take over that role, and let's target that role no later than the first week of February. And if he has to drop out before that, that's fine. But if we can
Yeah.
have an update on the January 9th meeting, and then we want the for replacement to be in place.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense? Keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
No, no, I just wrote it down. It sounds reasonable. I'll
Okay.
relay this.
Okay. And then let's get an update.
So just a quick question about the 9th. This is this meeting, right? You mean
That's correct.
this meeting? Yeah, that is okay. Small question. Next week, is there gonna be a meeting?
Yeah, let's go to that. So no meeting next week. So that's December 26th, and no meeting January 2nd of 2025. The first one is due to the US holiday break. Almost no one is going to be working on January 26th, the day after, US Christmas, and many parts of the world. And January 2nd, because of where New Year's falls, and everyone has off New Year's Eve and New Year's Day typically, that next day, nearly everyone will be taking off. I mean, at least it's true at my company. And so this winter break, it's going to be very hard to get enough people to have a meaningful meeting.
Yeah.
So the next call will be Thursday, January 9th,
Yeah.
on this link. Any thoughts or questions on that? Does everyone agree? Or does anyone disagree? Because I suspect everyone agrees.
Yeah, so it sounds like the next meeting will be on the 9th of January.
Yeah, that's what I'm showing here.
Okay, great.
Zoom. Do I need to? I can zoom if I need to. There we go.
Sounds good.
Okay. Because again, it's just due to reality. I mean, the reality is we wouldn't get. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be there
Right.
because we're shut down we're shut down during this time period. I mean, I could do the second if I absolutely had to as a special thing, but I think most people are going to be taking off because Christmas and New Year's fall exactly in the middle of the week. This cycle. So, all right. So yeah. So if you could ask Gal to do an update on January 9th, that would be great. So that we know what we're what we need the replacement to pick up, and then we'll start putting names forward January 9th as well for the replacement.
Great.
Okay, thank you. All right, Paul.
All right. Just
OCP and Mia.
1 second. I am in the process of deleting those 2 instances from the calendar. So
All right.
I believe they are gone. So both the 26th and the 2nd, those meetings are, everybody should get notices that they've been canceled. My two, so OCP EMEA conference, we have been given a chance to have a booth at the OCP EMEA conference. It's at the end of April, and give me a second, I'll look at the actual dates. 29th and 30th. It's in Dublin, Ireland. And we would need at least one person, if not a couple, to attend and staff that booth. I don't have as much as I'd like to go to Dublin in April. I don't have budget to do so. So we're looking for some folks probably local to do that. Do we know of folks local to Ireland that that could attend?
I'll reach
don't
out to
know.
some of my coworkers at Intel who are there in Ireland.
Okay.
And I don't have we have I mean, we have people in Ireland, but none are involved in this. But
Yeah, same here. I mean, we have a bunch of folks in Cork.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I've got anybody who's been involved with OPI there. I have one who's done some performance testing of DPUs there, but in Cork, but not in Dublin.
I may attend for other project. Maybe I can cover some of the days.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
Sridhar, could you
Okay.
Sridhar, could you send an email to the mailing list, the
I will
general
do that.
mailing list, and ask for volunteers, and then say that you may, and then indicate whether you can cover any of the time as well. So
Sure.
so Sridhar, please send that on the mailing list so that we have both the reminder and we can get people to reply on the mailing list if they can cover it or if they have somebody who can cover it. So
Will
send it.
do. Will do.
Yeah. All right.
Perfect. And Miles, if you find someone within Intel who's interested in being there, let me know.
Yeah, will do. Thanks. I know Mike Lynch, who's on the governing board, isn't there in Ireland. I just don't know. if
Oh,
he's
okay,
here.
great. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
he's in Ireland. I didn't know if it was Dublin. And truthfully, I didn't know if he was still at Intel or not.
Yeah, and again, if you have somebody in Cork, I don't think getting to Dublin is the journey of a lifetime.
Right.
They're not that far apart. At least in California and Texas terms, they're not far.
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah, I didn't learn Irish geography in school, so
Yeah.
not sure I learned American geography in school, but
Fair enough. All right. All right. Anything else on that one? Any question from anyone? Okay. AMD.
So had a meeting with Robert Hormuth that the biz dev team at the LF set up. So Mike Wooster and team set up this meeting. It was supposed to be a meeting at, I believe, OCP when I was there. And I'd met with a bunch of other folks. I'd met with Meta and others, and I've given those updates. Anyway, I asked what it would take for he and AMD to become involved in the project, and where they saw the project going, and what he saw as needs for the OPI project. From his point of view, OPI needs to build kind of full stack solutions. I don't know if that's what he would call them, but OPI needs to build the APIs to standardize how each vendor's set of functionality is presented to a customer. He said no enterprise customers want to take on taking a card, putting an operating system on it, putting software on it, configuring that software and that operating system, configuring the card, and to get some value out of it. He said in his mind, enterprise customers want an API that provisions a card and another API that turns the firewall on the card on, and allows them to configure that firewall, something that simple. Not that they need to install a new operating system or Kubernetes, create a Kubernetes cluster and then create a install software and get it going. So he believes that in order to be picked up by the enterprise, OPI needs to focus on standardizing how the functionality that each vendor is delivering. So it'll be the vendor's problem, the vendor's need to create the functionality on the card and to allow OPI to configure it easily. And that OPI should just be configuring what the vendors are shipping. That make sense? That was his real, we met for 20, 30 minutes. And that was his input.
I mean, I have probably, 6 questions and comments, but I want everyone else to go first.
And we have, so F5 has another meeting with AMD in general to talk about various solutions on their CPUs and their cards. So we'll have a chance to ask him some deeper questions, and we'll come back with some answers after that. That meeting's on mid-January, but that's what a 20-minute conversation with him turned up.
All right. Thoughts, questions, feedback from everyone else? Except, I mean, I have some, but
Yeah,
again,
my
want
only
to go
thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I
No,
was
go
gonna say
ahead.
my only thoughts there are sounds like he really wants OPI to be a pane of glass and not necessarily the implementation. That's kind of how I heard that feedback. I don't know about you.
Yeah, he wants OPI to maybe not even a pane of glass, but a single provisioning and function exposing API. Not that we're
Gotcha.
developing solutions that have functionality that isn't native on the cars. It isn't, he said bespoke isn't what enterprise is going to do. In his understanding, 70 to 80% of the AMD cards, Pensando cards that have been sold are using only what software came with the card and using it in a very standard manner. He said there's only a couple, 20 to 30% are doing some sort of bespoke function on the ARM cores.
That part makes a lot of sense for the enterprise market. Yeah.
Yep.
Other thoughts or questions? Or, again, okay, so I'll go. This is what we said originally for OPI. If you remember, many of our original discussions were around this approach.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This fell apart with contention over what that set of APIs should be, and contention over an open source implementation versus just a document that specifies the API.
Yep.
Maybe header files to support it. The API working group has no participation right now. So Mark Sanders has canceled most of the meetings because it has no participation, because no one brings forward, here's the API we would like to propose for this block of functionality that enterprise customers need, including AMD. So,
right.
Okay. So I agree with Robert, but from one point of view, but to do that, people are going to have to bring in, here's the API we want to expose.
Right.
And now we did have that for the EVPN enabled bridge stuff, right? We did have that in a couple of ways. So we do have that for we have the equivalent of that, although it's the application itself, for Nginx. We do have the common provisioning, but it's not universally loved. We do have requests for the equivalent API, again, from two sources, UCSD and ION.
Right.
So they're asking for that as well. Early on, we did have a whole set of enterprise customers, banks in particular, coming in and say, oh, you should provision a full stack, including the data flow and workflow through the card in a common way, and that would be maybe fantastic.
Right.
And yet most of those customers haven't bought very many DPUs at all.
Right.
Firewalls have multiple implementations. Load balancers do as well.
Mm-hmm.
To do firewall and load balancer offload with a common API onto DPUs that are getting shipped, that have that as a you can buy it from us or buy it with a partnership, and there are a number of different partnerships that we won't go into here that are either existing or potential, or maybe there are likely some that are semi-secret right now. So we won't enumerate the possible combinations, but you can imagine what those are.
Right.
And to have a common API, all of those combinations would have to agree that that is the API. So we would need to bring all of the people in. It would expose that they're doing the partnership, and then, or they're going to release stuff and go, hey, this is the API for to do it. But that doesn't leave the enterprise customers with much of a choice, because they're like, well, if I pick this one, I'm going to code to that API in terms of my provisioning tools, my Ansible and my internal workflow. And I'm going to then can't use this other card. So now I'm locked in, which will then have a likely slowing effect on them committing to do that. On the other hand, to have a common API, we have to know, hey, here's all the combinations. Here's the definition of what they could all do.
Right.
This sounds challenging to me based on the history over the last year and a half or 2 years.
Yes.
And it's challenging not because intellectually we couldn't do it, because we're all smart enough and we all have enough, years of development and standards under our belt. It's challenging because the practical realities of the market don't make it easy to do that. We could take another swing at it, and again, if we have honestly, if we have NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel that all say, hey, for the DPUs, IPUs we produce, we shall define, we'll make these parts of those DPUs in common, and we'll all back it. We'll all go publicly back it, and we'll back it with our enterprise customers. Even if that's for a subset of the functionality, we probably win. Now, can we do that is the question. And I don't necessarily need you guys to answer on the call unless you want to chime in and answer. But that's my viewpoint right now. And so that's why I say I see potential value in OPI still. Again, Robert just articulated it again. That's the potential value. And the customers you're trying to reach are enterprise and telco.
Yep.
Now, one of the threads has been, telco is the most important customer set for this. But I think enterprise is an equally valuable customer set. And I've said that before over the last while. Okay, so that's my take. And I don't really have any questions for about your conversation with Robert, because I get what he's saying.
Right.
Okay. Thoughts or feedback to my extemporaneous outburst there.
So if I take the F5 view of this, Paul, I don't understand where the ISV slots into AMD's vision of this. Or
Yeah,
can ISV insert their product in that?
in my understanding of what Robert said, the ISV, the Red Hats, the F5s, the Palo Altos, the others don't slot their functionality into this unless they have worked individually with each vendor to make their technology part of what the vendor ships.
Right, which I don't think aligns with our historical vision of what OPI was trying to
Right.
accomplish.
Doesn't align with the IBM Red Hat F5 original vision of OPI.
And Dell as well, I would say.
And yeah, to make it easier to provision and use these cards.
Yeah, and the other issue with Pensando and AMD historically for us has been that they take a very host-centric view of things, and they don't really think about there shouldn't be ISV software running on their card, which is not where we've been at mentally. So
Yeah, fair points.
So I do agree that a lot of our struggles, there's a combination of market adoption and vendor cooperation, right? Alignment and participation, right? To have a common view of how we can drive market adoption. And I don't think we've cracked that nut quite yet. And I don't know, what I'm hearing from AMD doesn't sound like a solution to me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
What AMD would ask OPI to do for them, because they're going to come to market with their card, their solution, their API, and here it is, world, please adopt it.
Right. And that's the impression I got was adopt it. Hey, OPI, make it easier for customers to adopt what we're shipping.
But NVIDIA would say, no, everyone should adopt Doka. And Intel likewise has their view, right? So we're not moving the industry forward with that approach.
I agree with you there, technically, yeah. And strategically.
I think everybody has their own customer set and their own customers who prioritize what they want. For instance, Marvel, we have seen customers that want to run their own stuff on the ARM core, so not universal.
I think we're going to rehash a lot of this in January, Joe.
No, I agree. I was just giving space for people to, space for people to express themselves and provide their ideas. Okay, any last comment or even question? Like, what would this, I mean, any question, any comment on any of this? Yeah, I mean, essentially it would mean rebuilding the API working group into a functioning body. And again, we would want direct contribution from, in particular, well, actually everyone, because we're going to package up and sell a solution to enterprise. If you were, say, a Dell, you would care very much about silicon diversity and common APIs. If you were a provider of software components that go on DPUs, like you were a Red Hat, an F5, you would care very much about this. If you're a DPU vendor or IPU vendor, you absolutely care about this. And if the future of OPI isn't this, what is it?
Mhm.
What is the future of OPI if it's not this? And again, we could say, hey, we only care about telco market. We've got a few things and declare victory. I don't think that's the right answer. But okay, so think about this over the 2 week, over the uh, essentially 2.5 week break. When we come back in January, we'll deal with the life cycle group and keep that going. We can look at our subcommittee and working group structure and see if we want to do any revisions there. And we can come back to this AMD idea that goes back to the original OPI idea. And what aspects can we really do? Now, we did have some success in, again, lifecycle and provisioning on commonality. Again, ease of use exposure that you saw in the board, strategy request, which again is a feedback from the TSC into the discussion and so on. We could have some more success there without going all the way to, here's the API to provision the firewalls that everyone's going to, exposes, or the networking. And when we tried to do the networking, if you remember, we hit brick walls. So we slammed it and we dropped it. For a while, we were trying to define what common networking configuration looks like on a DPU. And we dropped that by having things unable to come together. That doesn't mean we can't do it. Again, we can take another swing at it. And again, time has passed. People have learned stuff. People have seen what does and hasn't worked in the market. Maybe we come back and do that common API. And certainly in terms of AI scale out network, that might be a useful thing that everybody could agree to. Because we have, there are very large customers in the world. You can go do an online search and find them in deals with all of our companies right now. You can find that too, public search. And, and many of those will leverage DPUs. So if there was a common way for them to do it, they would be happier. Maybe that would be the uptake we need. But think about it over the break. Think about it over the break. We'll pick this up again in January. All right.
Okay.
Any final thought from anyone other than thank you everyone for another year of OPI. Thank you for your support and engagement, and I appreciate it. So and enjoy your holidays.
Yo, I have one last topic. Sorry, I'll just take 2 minutes if that's okay.
No, please go ahead. That's why we're here.
Yeah. So can I share my screen? So this is regarding the technical writing aspect. So I'm trying to get some profiles from these companies because without me knowing exactly who will be working on this kind of work will be very difficult because they have to work with our working groups closely sometimes. And we have a lot of contents here and there. They have to, whoever the writer is, he has to work closely and try to collate all the materials and create the document, right? So I'm correcting the profiles. So maybe if we can have 1 or 2 from TSC who can review these profiles, that'll be very helpful. Maybe I'll just show the most relevant profile that I got is this person. He recently, actually retired from Ericsson Research. So he is interested in doing the technical writing activities. I think. So PhD from RPI, is working on this high performance computing and cloud computing and all those things, big data and IoT and all those things. So he was the most relevant profile that I found with all the reasonable cost. He's based in India, so his reasonable cost is also reasonable. So like this, I will be getting profiles, but I need somebody or maybe 1 or 2 from TSC who can review this profile and say, hey, he or she might be more suitable for technical writing activities in 2025.
Send that request to the TSC mailing list.
Okay.
And
okay.
and if no one picks it up within, a few days, send it again. Send-
I thought you.
in other words, nag us.
Okay.
And, you can send it, and actually for TSC private, you can send the link on TSC private because it's just us. You could send the link or send a copy of the actual resumes
Sure.
that you found, that you filtered. And
Yeah.
so if you did those two things, so on the TSC thing, you can ask for volunteers or even do that on TSC private. And then on TSC private, you can also send the resume, so it's make it easy for us to do the.
Yeah, I'll be doing the first level filtering if that's okay, because I need to see if they're really available, capable, and everything.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever, like I say, use that TSC private mailing list, and if you don't get a response, nag people to respond. People
Okay.
generally respond well to being nagged because they have good admin assistants and their bosses and their colleagues who nag them in their day jobs. So, all right, but yeah, we can help, but you're gonna have to nudge us. All right.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else from anyone at all? Otherwise, we are done for the year and we'll reconvene next year.
Sounds good,
Thank you,
Jeff.
bro.
All right.
Merry
Good,
Christmas.
thanks so much.
All right. Have a great
Happy
holiday.
holidays.
Bye-bye.
All right. Later.